Warm welcome to this week's edition of Yilungelo Lakho. It's your right. Luhlelo konolethela ke konke lokuthinza wena nemalungelo akho njengemthengi. Mina ke ngisimpiwe ngcongwane. Bekunene namhlanje sitawudzingidza indzaba ye debt review. Luhlelo kwelo lwashicilelwa ukuthi lusite bathengi labangakwadi kuphefumula labangena shika elubishini ngendzaba yetikweneti. Kepha ke asisive ukuthi ke kuyangane ukuthi lolu hlelo lulethele labanye bathengi itinkinga. Njengoba sengishita ukuthi uhlelo kwele debt review lwashicilelwa ngephansi kwemthetho we-National Credit Act ukuthi ke yethule umthwalo kulabo labangasakwadi kumelana netikweneti tabo. But now, with all its good intentions, the debt review program has brought about headaches instead of relief to consumers. All this as a result of infiltration by dubious characters and scammers targeting those trapped in debt. And to examine exactly the effects of the debt review program and the experience of consumers, asasimukele ke Mmadikwa Phoshoko lomele ke i-National Credit Regulator, siphinde sibe naye ke Noxolo Sono lokhulumela ke i-Sonox Debt Solutions. Ladies, a very good afternoon and a warm welcome to the program. Sanamukele.
Thank you for having us. Siyabonga.
Siyabonga kakhulu. Mmadikwa ngicela ngawe ke ukuthi before we get deeper into the conversation, awusichazele kabanti ke ukuthi yini i-debt review nekuthi ke bathengi ibasita kanjani?
So debt review, Yilungelo, as you said, that was initiated by the National Credit Act. So these are consumers that are actually over indebted or bayabona ukuthi they're going to experience problems ngokubhadala ikweleti zabo. So a debt counselor would come in, they would do budget yakho and basically see how much onayo or oyidingayo for endlini, and thereafter what is left they would negotiate nama credit providers wakho to see that they reduce the installment, and where possible if ama credit providers ayavuma ukuthi ba reduce interest yakho also. So that's the whole aim of debt review, to relieve the consumer that are under pressure, to make sure ukuthi endlini at least ucovered, uyakhona ukuya emsebenzini comfortably, ubhadala school fees, ube nokudla, and then ama creditors wakho will also get a fair share of what you are making as income yako, to make sure ukuthi bayabhadalwa nabo at the same time. So basically that's what debt review is, and it needs to go to court so that it's making it binding ku both the consumer and ama credit provider ukuthi kusasa bangajiki bakutshelele ukuthi asivumelana ngalokho. So mayise court in a court order, at least i consumer iyakhona ukurelaxa yazi ukuthi I credit provider anyeke buyele emuva ithi no, they didn't negotiate this installment, so they can't go back on their word. But ama consumers need to make sure that they are paying every month whatever installment was actually negotiated with them.
So ngibani ke lona ilungelo lokuya enkantolo i-consumer noma ke i-credit provider? So, what's the process?
Okay, so the debt counselor mangaqeda ukunegotiate nama credit providers wakho will go to court on behalf of the consumer. The consumer will be a respondent nama credit providers to say ukuthi this is the agreement that the debt counselor has actually negotiated for the consumer, and this is what is binding. So it's the debt counselor who would approach the court on behalf of the consumer.
Noxolo, let me also bring you into this conversation. At what point does a consumer approach a debt, a debt counselor? Debt counselor.
Okay. Yeah. Okokuqala nje kubalulekile ukuthi ngenze budget.
Yes.
So as a consumer. So mangiqale ngayenza budget yami ngabona ukuthi okay, mangibhadala le ikweleti zonke engizibhadalayo, ngisala nginemali encane eyokunakekela umndeni wami. Nginakekela umndeni wami, ama debit order wama ya bounce, angisakhona ukubhadala ikweleti. So at that point ikubonisa nje i-red flag esho ukuthi manje sekunenkinga, and kumele ugijime uyokhuluma either in terms of the act, ungakhuluma even nama banks ngokwawo, or ungakhuluma nathi thina as ama debt counselor, sibona ukuthi singakusiza kanjani ukuze ungaluzi indlu yakho, imoto yakho, ungabi ne-stress sokungakwazi ukulala ebusuku.
So what's that conversation like? Like nje nang approach i-credit provider noma ngelibhange ngithini nje kubo?
Okay. Ama-bank ayahluka ke ngendlela asebenza ngayo. But amanye ama-bank anayo ama-division okudila nabantu aba-distressed.
Okay.
Uthola ukuthi mawufonile ibank uyabatshela ukuthi hey nginenkinga enje, they can put you through to someone ongakwazi ukukusiza. However, the reality of the matter is that ama-credit providers amaningi just want to be paid. So kukubeka in a very difficult position as a consumer, because vele mawuza kubo uku-back foot vele usenkingeni. So sometimes uyasaba awunayo naleyo confidence yokuthi ukhulume nabo. And that is why i-National Credit Act yenze ukuthi sibe khona sama mediator sikhuluma on your behalf.
Yes, yes.
And it should have a positive outcome.
Then Mmadikwa ngimbona kanjani ke i-debt counselor lengiyo, a legit debt counselor nalo ke longumkokotho?
Okay, so basically what we normally advise consumers ukuthi rather go to a debt counselor in your area ozowazi ukuthi office lakho likuphi. Because on the debt counselor's office kuzoba nestika se National Credit Act, and
Okay.
it will tell you whether the debt counselor is actually registered. Bazoba ne certificate also that's issued by the National Credit Regulator negama and the DC number yoguti lomuntu vele they are registered in the period that they registered for.
Okay.
You can also check website NCR to check which debt counselors are actually still registered. Check nama debt counselor that are in your area, so that masa uya ku debt counselor you can decide which one you are more comfortable with. Masoba approach her in terms of where their offices are.
Okay, so basically my office NCR are countrywide.
For debt counselors, debt counselors' offices are nationwide. So in each and every town, mostly there is a debt counselor in service. It's just a matter of going onto the NCR website to check which debt counselors are registered in your area, and not just pick anybody or go internet and end up to register or not.
And then ngimbona kanjani ke kuthi ke cha uyabona la sengene ke I'm being entrapped by a dubious debt counselor. Noma ke this is a legit debt counselor. Ngibona kanjani? What are some of the telltale signs?
Okay. From the very beginning, mina I am of the view yokuthi i-relationship ye debt counselor neye consumer ifana no dokotela ne patient.
Yes.
And I think isebenza best ngaleyo ndlela leyo, so that i-debt counselor yakho must be accessible. Ang believe ukuthi ungakhuluma through another party mawufuna ukukhuluma ne-debt counselor. I-debt counselor mayibe seduzane, mayikwazi ukutholakala even nange-email, even nange-SMS system, so that nibe nobudlelwane obuthize, so that from each stage la siqala khona up to the stage where you get a clearance certificate, there's communication, there's interaction, so that ukwazi ngoba phela we also get aftercare fee. And that fee it goes about up to maximum 400 depending on the affordability. Ifee yokuthi sikunakekele. So umsebenzi wethu ukuthi sikunakekele, masiphendula ama calls wakho, masibe accessible. So I think it's the only way in my view ezokwenza ukuthi uthembe umuntu, umthole mawumdinga.
Okay.
Whether at the process mawu apply, mawuzwe lelo lizwi, leo voice leo agree assure ukuthi yazini this is how things are going to happen for me as a consumer.
Ngoba the reason I'm asking this ngoba khona ke labanye ama consumers labakhala ngekuthi they found themselves under debt review unknowingly ngoba ke khona ke i-debt counselor that unscrupulously offered them a consolidation loan. So ngibona kanjani ke ukuthi ke okay lena i-consolidation loan lena ke i-process debt review. Maybe if you could just tell us through ukuthi yini ke lo mehluko between that.
Okay, so basically a consolidation loan, it's credit. So you taking e-loan ukubhadala amanye ama-account, whereas e-debt review, the debt counselor would basically make sure ukuthi it's one installment that's normally taken from your account by PDA that will be distributed to my creditors work. So they are paying off the debt slowly. It's not like one chunk, whereas with a consolidation loan that would pay that off. So what is the difference for the consumer? The application form will state this is a debt review process. I think the most important thing mele sizifundisa ukufunda before sign. A lot of consumers, when they are distressed, They just want to sign and get out of the problem and not actually engaged and be involved in the whole process. As a consumer, you don't just apply for debt review and then you would say, oh, somebody else will deal with my problems. It doesn't work like that. It's still equally zakho. So you need to be involved in the process. Make sure you read the contract that you're signing. What is the process? Because with all the forms, applications forms for debt review, it must clearly state this is debt counseling and debt review, and this is what we will be charging you. This is how the process works. And basically, if you've read through that, you will realize it's not a consolidation, because a consolidation would have other fees that are associated. So that's the easiest way to see what you're getting yourself into. Don't just agree over the phone with, yeah, whatever, as long as in Zongeta. Make sure you understand the process and you know what you're getting yourself into.
Okay, let's leave it right there. We'll continue the conversation after the break. Let's pause right there. Please do join us after this break. Yilungelo Lakho, don't go away. Asinabukela futhi ke bekunene ehlelweni lethu ilungelo lakho it's your right. Tincingo tethu sesivuliwe ukuthi ke naba ungaba ingcenye enkulumo yethu ungasishela icingo khona manje ku 0117140669 noma ke 0117140670. The numbers are on your screens right now. Ungasifumela futhi ne WhatsApp ku 060-844-9857. Uphinde uthumele futhi ne-email ku consumer@sabc.co.za. Let's take our first caller. Sinabafana lapha ke enkandla sekomelo ehleleni sawubona.
Yebo sanibona njani?
Siyaphila kunjani baba?
Siyaphila.
Ngene ezabeni khuluma nathi baba.
No, ngifuna ukucheck ukuthi kuza kanjani uma ngabe uyi-client uzithola usuku debt review kodwa without your knowledge ungakutshelanga.
Okay, so umbuto wakho uthi ufuna kuphuma kanjani ku debt review? Nangabe ungene ungadi.
Ungazi uphuma kanjani ungena ungazi phela wena mawuthi uyezwa kuthiwa wena usuku debt review ngenxa ukuthi mhlawumbe kunamali kuzana ngakho kama.
Okay, Mr. Bafana Enkandla.
Uphuma kanjani ke yona?
Yeah, siyabonga kakhulu ukushayela Bafana Enkandla. Thank you so much for that question, and it's a very, very important question, and I would love both of you to answer. Ndocela ngayo ke Mmadikwa ukuthi ke uphuma kanjani nangabe ungene unknowingly. I mean, it goes back to my earlier question ukuthi nangabe ungene ungadi, and then how do you get out of it?
Okay, so basically, if you do lodge a complaint with the NCR, we'll see, ask the debt counselor ukuthi sicela usithumele the application form your consumer to see if the consumer really will apply for a debt review or not. And then based on that, we'll decide which route is best for a consumer to take ukuthi by exit. If it's past a certain stage, we would need to ask the debt counselor ukuthi ayise a court and actually have the magistrate remove that matter and reject the application, because obviously it was done unjustly. And we make sure ukuthi akusi consumer bhatalayo those costs, it's the debt counselor, especially where consumer ithi azange bangitshele, I was never advised, and then the process has gone so far ukuthi manje I'm stuck and I did this unknowingly. So as the NCR, we do take the complaint and then we do investigate ukuthi kahle kahle kwenzakaleni ukuze the consumer end up in that situation.
Okay, Noxolo, from your perspective?
Yes, mina ngithi kuma consumer mabanganikezi abantu information nje over the phone.
Okay.
You know, there's legislation like South Africa that protects our consumers and any citizen from keep any information ngaye. So that if a person calls you, une right yokuthi uthi I'm fine, or uthe emntwini no ngizokhuluma nawe at a certain stage, or ngithumele ama contact numbers. You cannot give umuntu information yakho efonini awumazi nokuthi ubani. So in many instances la kuba nama complaints, you will find umuntu the singakusiza ukwehlisa installment. So umuntu just buys into the idea yokuthi installment izokwehla, maybe by up to 50%, and umuntu azwe nalento yokuthi no uzoba comfortable and all of that. Any debt review akusi yokuba comfortable.
Kuqiniso vele ukuthi installment iyehla nga 50%.
I not necessarily nge 50%. Now, kunama industry rules that have been agreed upon between ama credit providers, which is the banks,
Yeah.
the NCR, nama debt counseling forums. So what has happened is that credit providers have said in the agreement, if umuntu, for instance, ama loans wake are resolved over 60 months, for example, maybe up to 70 months for remoto, they are prepared to do a concession. It's called a concession.
Okay.
It's not, and it doesn't even apply to all the credit providers. Now, ama credit providers amaningi are part of the industry forum. So they will say your bigger banks or your bigger credit providers will say, okay, sizo accepta I proposal mayinje. And in many instances, it works for umuntu to honor more than one yeskweleti. So when
Okay.
you restructure
Okay.
and you use the system, then it will be able to tell you. The more over-indebted the consumer, the more ebagu advantage yogu benefita from these concessions. But I just want to emphasize, Guti, it doesn't apply to all credit providers. Ngoba akusiyibo bonke were part of the forums.
Yes.
But also not all credit agreements possible ukuthi uwayehlise to that extent. So once you hear umuntu echo njalo, I think you need to be immediately, once i-debt counselor icho njalo, unelungelo lokuthi ngithumele ke le draft proposal ngizoyibona. Because we use systems that enable you to see the draft proposal, so that ubone the reduction of the interest. Because sometimes one of the reasons why we go to court and not maybe sometimes go NCT, that's the National Consumer Tribunal, is because some credit providers abafuni kwasanhlobo kwehlisa interest, abafuni kwasanhlobo ucooperate ne process ye debt review. And in that instance, the onus then becomes that of the magistrate. And I must say that ama magistrates like South Africa are well versed.
So a magistrate, can they rule against a credit provider?
Yes, they rule on the restructuring proposal, but not on the interest.
Okay.
Abanayo authority yoku negotiate nge-interest.
Okay.
But ukhuluma lento ukuthi i-National Credit Act is based on the provisions of the Constitution, and it's about your rights as a consumer. So no magistrate makehleli laphaya ubeki i-case, i-debt counsel ibeki i-case yakho ukuthi ingane azikwazi ukudla, angisakwazi ukufundisa ingane, for instance, ngenxa yalesikweleti. Abo magistrate are more than willing ukuthi balalele, provided i-debt counselor ifakile ama-facts ne evidence esupportayo i-case yakho.
Okay, all right. Let's take our next caller. Sina Tabola phake sekunde sakumele ehleleni sawubona.
Unjani baba wami?
Siyaphila kunjani baba?
Asiyaphila. Ukhuluma nomkhona Thabo la baba wami.
Siyabonga baba, ngena endzabeni. What's on your mind?
Baba wami back 2013 ngablacklistwa. Bengangiblacklistwa ngaphelwa umsebenzi. Then by 2016 ngathola umsebenzi omunye ngangena i-debt review from debt solutions baba wami. Then after lapho ngaphela umsebenzi futhi. So manje ngiyasebenza baba wami. So ngiyastruggle ukuthi le company debt review yiyo evela ku reflect ekameni lami vela akusavela le tolo lezi bengisikoleta lezi. So ngathi ukubafonela labantu laba mangibafonela bangitshela ukuthi mina niye khona le e-Truworths la ngibakoleta khona ngikhulume nabo ngithi banginikeze i-credit report ebonisa ukuthi ngibhadalile. So I try ukuthi ngifonele base-Truworths so bangitshela ukuthi i-case lami bayifake kumaloya wabo banginikeza amanamba phone ngabafonela ayisiyakuhlangana babami kunzima nje.
Thabo siyabonga kakhulu ukushayela ke thina intetho ke titawuzama ukuthi icatulule na ucala ngama sona.
Okay. Okokuqala nje khona umthetho obizwa i-Prescription Act. Now in a case la i-consumer beyina more than 3 years ingasibhadali isikweliti ene i-creditor ingacommunicateanga naye, that debt iya-prescribe ngokomthetho. So ma
prescribe kusho ukuthi ke yakhanselwa le debt.
yakhanselwa, yes.
Okay.
Now provided the consumer ayenzangi commitment makuloku bemfonela ukuthi uzobhadala nini. Now umsebenzi wami as a debt counselor mawuza kimi uyiclient yami mhlawumbe ukuthi ngina 4 years ngingabhadali kumele ngi-investigate izinto ezinjalo and mawungaphansi kwami kumele ukuthi umsebenzi wami ukuthi now ama paid up letters manje ke ready for ukuthola clearance certificate or even advise ukuthi okay usasena lesikweleti clear lesikweleti lesi. So I guess kule case yale consumer mhlambe akubanga ne communication between yena ne debt counselor during the period begebe ne problem yokungathola umsebenzi nani but in some other instances mabe fonela even the NCR. NCR will advise with okay, maybe if you are not making headway with this debt counselor, speak to another debt counselor. Then the debt counselor is a requester transfer for that consumer, and consumer ithole mhlambe leyo debt counselor afila ukuthi ucomfortable naye and angakwazi kumsiza out of the process.
Okay, Mmadikwa siphinde sibuye kuwe in just a moment, but for now let's take a quick break. Mbukele asasiphinde sijikele ngasatitolo hlala kanye nathi ungasanyakathi leli lungelo lakho. Welcome back sakumola futhi mbukeli sisakhuluma ke ngehlelo ke le debt review lolwethelwa ke lwalashicilelwa futhi ukuthi ke likuside ngekuthula ke umthwalo wakho ngetikwenet. My guests today are Mmadikwa Phoshoko lovela ke ka National Credit Regulator, siphinde sibe na Noxolo Sono lobuya ke ka Debt Solutions. Our participation lines are 011-714-0669 noma ke 011-714-0670. We continue to take your questions and your calls, and we've got George from Sebokeng. Sakumola ehlelweni sawubona.
Kunjani ba?
Siyaphila kunjani baba?
Sona, baba ukhuluma noJosh Methela la.
Siyabonga baba, ngene zabeni.
Yebo, baba bengicela ukubuza uthini. Nginenkinga la ikoloto. Bengicela ukubuza uthini abomama uthini. Ngiyasizeka kanjani uthini ngiphume lapho kule ikoloto lesi.
Okay, unenkinga etikweleti. Uke wangena ku debt review?
Angangeni.
Okay, unesifiso sengena ku debt review. Ufuna kwathi ukuthi ungena kanjani ku debt review?
Ngithathela e-TV ngibhekelela i-TV.
Okay.
Ngiyena ngifana. Yebo.
Okay, chubeka kubambe. My guests will help you. Ngicela ukuthi nje step by step usaselayinini manje ke George uyabuta ukuthi ke ungena kanjani ku debt review ngoba he's so overwhelmed with debt.
The most important thing is mele athole debt counselor that will assess the situation yakhe ukuthi how can they assist him. And then after that, assign an application form once they are comfortable with the debt counselor and know exactly what they're getting themselves into and the fees associated. And then the process will continue where the budget will be done and the debt review part of this will start where the debt counselor will start negotiating with the credit providers on his behalf. So Maga Tole debt counselor, there's quite a few debt counselors around the Val area. So debt counselor. So you must just go onto the NCR website, Atole debt counselor in the area is okondumsisa application yet debt review.
Okay, George, usekhona line ini? George, are you still there?
Ngisekhona ma.
Okay, ngiyathemba ukuthi uvile ke George. Into ecala nje uthi ke Mmadikwa there are so many debt counselors Sebokeng lapho khona noma ke evala lapho khona wena nje ngena ku website ye NCR ubuke ke i-debt counselor le registered ungathathi noma ngangibani ngoba na utawuya noma ngangibani vele batakufaka elbishini thola ke i-website uthole amanombolo tabo and then uba ukhulume nabo uthathe i-application form uregister and then ke once you are comfortable nabo bona ke batawubese baya kuma creditors akho lo labo loba owako ukuthi bakukhulumele kuze ukuthi ke ba reduce ke tikwenet takho. So we'll take it from there. Siyathemba ukuthi sawusitakala. All right, we seem to have lost George, but we certainly hope that George did get the message. George there from Sebokeng. All right, let's take a look at your messages on our WhatsApp line that have been coming through. Okay, my name is Veronica Hambiani. Namege ngine problem ngajoina i-debt review over the phone. Bathi bazanginceda ukuthi ikweleti zami but akuzange kube njalo ngagcina ngizibhadalela ngokwami i-loan Standard Bank nase Home Choice, but my name is under debt review. That is so bizarre.
Yeah, okay. If ngaphendula, yeah.
Yeah, go for it.
I-client ne njengoba bengichilo earlier on kubalekile ukuthi ube ne relationship ne debt counselor yakho. Now ideally kumele ube ne debt uhambe ne debt counselor from ekuqaleni kwe process up to I process la I end up akhona. Sometimes ke ama clients nabo baba impatient. Uthola ukuthi ufuna ukushesha a exit and ngesinye isikhathi uthola ukuthi u defaultile. So uthola ukuthi ku create I gap ethize. Ukuthi by the time ebuyela ku debt counselor, I debt counselor is no longer willing ukumuzwa because already nama credit providers sewa terminate I debt review.
So lokumcoka ukuthi le application process kumele uyiqale in person. Uyele kubo face to face. Ungayendi over the phone.
Okay.
It's better if you do it face to face, honestly, because udingwazi ukuthi udila nobani.
Yes.
You can't be dealing nomuntu ongakhona ukumverify ukuthi umuntu khona anyeka scam na or umuntu who is actually registered. Hence besithe if you go to the offices, there's the debt counselor, there's the NCR certificate and there's the NCR sticker at the door.
Yeah.
So that way you are able to verify ukuthi vele lo muntu registered and they are able to assist you. If you are lahlekelwa umsebenzi along the way, it's very important ukuthi ukhulumene debt counselor yakho advisor ukuthi ngilahlekelwe umsebenzi. Most consumers uthola ukuthi bane credit life that can actually assist in the gap la bangasebenzi khona, because ama credit providers with most of the credit that you take, there needs to be credit insurance for in case you get retrenched, so it's able to pay out from that point. So ama consumers amaning ulahlekelwa umsebenzi uvele athule anyamalale angasabhadali, which actually puts them in a worse of position because masobuya la ama creditors sewa terminatile, whereas you could have taken that opportunity to actually negotiate now ukuthi okay fine angisebenzi and this is the situation babona ukuthi bangakunceda kanjani or give you a break of some sort and you're able to negotiate to say, okay, this is how we're going to work it out. But just ukuthula nje is not really helping the situation. You can't bury your head and hope ukuthi lekweliti zonyamalala at the end of the day.
True. All right, let's take a look at the next WhatsApp message. The next one says, I'm in debt review. It stopped debiting in March and April this year, and later the creditor phoned me to make a payment arrangement. Now, today, the debt counselor phoned me saying that I am in arrears with them. I should make a payment arrangement with them too. I'm now confused as I have to pay Old Mutual Finance and the debt counselor at the same time. I won't be able to pay two at a time. Thanks very much, Mayor Agnes. Thank you so much for your message. Shoti vele nje kuyandika ukuthi ubhadale i-creditor ne-debt counselor at the same time. That's the question.
No, lokho akwenzeki, and I will come to that. Bengifuna nje ukukhuluma ngento ye-issue yokuthi some of us ama-debt counselors sinayo i-national footprint, and we work in a way that we are accessible to consumers. So okubalekile ukuthi you need to be able to have a network ukwazi ukuba nama attorneys that work across the country.
Okay.
So umuntu even nasenokhuluma naye efonini uyakwazi uku-establish i-relationship nama emails nani. So sengitsho ukuthi in as much as ngiyawuzwa ukuthi i-NCR is from what perspective, but i-client inayo right yokuthi ithi kuwe ngicela ungithumelele ngifuna ukubona ukuthi uregistered nane NCR.
Okay.
We are invited to check my website. Uyakwazi ukuthi iya ku NCR website ungibona ukuthi ngiregistered na.
Okay.
So that also is a way that makes it possible. Ne consumer mayfuna i-decal lebonisayo ukuthi we are practicer, you are still registered, uyakwazi ukuba ne-access, and the NCR luckily register annually. So if nama fees wakho awukakwa wabhadali or there's an issue, they will deregister you. So mawubheka nje igama mawuya ku website ubheka igama lika Noxolo Sono, it should tell you ukuthi registered.
Okay.
So uyakwazi from that point ukwazi ukuthi okay ngikhuluma nomuntu o legitimate or ngikhuluma nomuntu ongekho legitimate.
Yes.
Now, the question the client ibuza, is it possible to pay the debt counselor or possible to pay the credit provider? Into engicabanga ukuthi ngabe yenzekile in this case is that the credit provider ingaba terminate i-debt review, and i-client mangabe imthumele incwadi terminator debt review. Then i-credit provider inelungelo lokuthi clientini arrange to pay my debt directly. Yeah, so
Okay.
kumele ukuthi there are processes as well. In terms of the provisions of the act, kumele ukuthi kube khona termination letter that i-consumer ayitholayo.
Okay.
Whether by registered mail or maybe by email. Sometimes it also, in fact, they should be sending it to the NCR and to the debt counselor as well. So i-consumer iyakwazi ukubuza makufonelwa i-credit provider ukuthi ningiterminatile na ku-debt review, ngicela ningithumele i-proof kule email address. And am I say thumela i-proof ye-termination, then i-client iyazi ukuthi izo-communicator, izokwenza arrangement directly with the credit provider. But yeah, in cases, mhlambe in some cases, there may be more than one credit provider. So it would depend ukuthi wonke ama-credit providers terminatile na.
All right, let's leave it there for now. And I see Marvin from Soweto will take your call after the break. But for now, let's take another commercial break. Do join us after this. Ungasanyakati. Leli Yilungelo Lakho. Welcome back. Sakumona futhi mbukele. Sakhuluma ke ngelihlelo ke le debt review lo lashicilelwa ukuthi ke likuside ngekuthula kumthwalo wakho wetikweleti. My guest this afternoon Mmadikwa Phoshoko lovela ke National Credit Regulator. Siphinde sibe noXolo Sono lobuya ka Debt Solutions. Our participation lines are on your screens right now. The number to call is 011-714-0669 noma ke 011-714-0670. Ungathatha futhi mahlelo khukhwini wakho usithumela ke iWhatsApp. The WhatsApp number is on your screen right now. Let's take a next call ke sina Marvin lapha eSoweto. Sakumodo ehlelweni sawubona.
Okay, njani baba?
Siyaphila kunjani baba?
Khona. There's a certain company lenge kayibona la TV ne.
Yeah?
So la company yathi kimi, okay, they can consolidate my loan. Okay, then ngavuma. Then wathola ukuthi imali bangideductela yona. It's 1,700 rand, but my installment it was 1,200 rand. Then I went to the bank. Then the bank, then we settled. Then okay, bazokhatha installment yami ukuthi ngifuna ukuyibhadala. Okay, ngayibhadala ngayiceda, but even now mangicedile about my loan, but igama lami lithatha ku debt review.
How? Okay, Marvin, continue tuning in to SABC One Yilungelo Lakho tiniterfike takusitha kulelo hlangothi. Hayi inzaba ke consolidation iphinze yabuya ke lapha Mmadikwa kuthi ke uthi ke installment yakhe beng 1.2 but after I consolidation after having taken up loan consolidation wakhanza bhatala 1.7 and wayicetha ke leyo loan leyo and afterwards what follows igama lakhe selu debt review.
So basically what we need to establish ukuthi debt counselor, he needs to pull a credit report yakhe. So every consumer is entitled to one free credit report every year. So mangatonsi credit report yakhe abe ukuthi who flagged him for a debt review. Otherwise they can always contact the NCR. We will also check ukuthi who actually put him under debt review. And then mangaqeda lapho sizo contact leyo debt counselor and provide a paid up letter for the consumer so that bazo issue a clearance certificate ezosusa leyo flag from their credit report.
Kungiko yini ukuthi vele nangabe installment yami in 1.2 but after consolidation ngibhadala far more than that because it defeats the whole purpose ngoba phela consolidation ukuthi ngifuna kubhadala kancane.
That's very true. I think before you even go under debt counseling, debt counselor mayenza assessment, they need to check if there's any areas on the accounts. So if nama areas are accounting yako you haven't been paying for 2 years or so, as much as bazo negotiator for the reduced interest, you must always remember ukuthi mawenza payment, we try and cover the interest amount and then the capital amount. So it's imperative ukuthi must negotiate for the consumer to make sure ukuthi they're covering the capital and the interest. But it's very rare ukuthi consumer ipatale more than what they initially went in with because the whole point is you are already distressed. So the amount should be reduced. It shouldn't go up. So in tekmelesi investigate leyo sibona ukuthi kahle kahle kwayenzakalani maka apply for a debt review.
Okay. So I'm not so ngicela kubuta ukuthi i-repayment period noma ke i-period debt review ibanganani. Is it aligned with the repayment period yaleso sikweleti noma ke it's added onto the repayment period yaleso sikweleti?
Okay, ngifuna ukuqala ngokuthi i-consumer mele ikhumbule ukuthi ibhadala imali encane ngaphezulu kwale bekayibhadala ngokwe-original credit agreement. Yes. And therefore, i-debt counseling by its nature wandisa isikhathi sokubhadala isikweleti. Now, if izikweleti zakho ileziya ezine concession, in other words, ezenze ukuthi wehliselwe ne-interest kwavumelwana ne-debt counselor nama creditors wakho, then isikweleti sama loans, and especially makuthola ukuthi loan it's more than one credit agreement, uyakwazi ukuthi le i-loan yakho i-period yayo ifika ku-60 months, then in the case yemoto i-extend up to 80 months. And ngifuna uku-emphasize where there is i-concession. Now makungena sivumelwano, i-credit agreement can extend up to 100 months or more, especially for ama items amakulu like imoto and even nama obviously in the case of home loans. Yes. But ngifuna uku indicate ukuthi in the case of home loan mangabe zonke ikweleti zakho zibhadalekile, luckily kube ne amendment in the provisions of the National Credit Act ukuthi mangabe zinye ikweleti uzibhadalile zonke uselelwe i home loan indlu and the indlu up to date, uyakwazi uku-exita i-debt review. So we are required ukuthi sithumelele ama paid up letters, sikwenzele i-clearance certificate, and then si-indicate ukuthi your home loan is now up to date. Si-attach leyo information and si-thumele kuma-credit bureaus wonke for ukuthi uthole i-clearance certificate.
I see. So here's a burning question ke ukuthi nangabe ngiku-debt review, can I take up any other debt?
No.
So kutamele ngime until iziphele le period debt review?
I think we need to remember ukuthi already le mali onayo esikushiyele yona mabayenza budget, it's enough for wena nomndeni wakho. So mayothatha esinye isikweleti le mali yokubhadala the new loan ibuyaphi. And also i-credit provider mayenze assessment, it would be seen as reckless lending because ayikho imali extra yokubhadala leso sikweleti. Okay. So it's very important. I know life happens and then ubane emergency and unfortunately udinga imali. However, they can't extend credit more than what you already have because ayikho imali yokubhadala at the end of the day. But uzosithatha leso sikweleti and then it's not actually going to be paid. So there would be reckless lending on their part and also reckless borrowing on the consumer's part because uyazi ukuthi angeke ukhona ukubhadala. So unfortunately, once you're under debt review, they can't extend credit. Even if it happens ukuthi you're not under debt review, if there's no money left, mawuyenza i-budget yakho, a credit provider can extend more credit to you. Mababona ukuthi yazini ayikho imali yokubhadala lesikweleti. So under debt review, no, they definitely cannot extend any credit to kuwe while you're still under debt review and paying.
What if ngitfola ke umsebenzi longcono, lo ngiholela kangcono, i-bank balance yami saya improve, my financial state saya improve, but I'm still under debt review? Can I take up any other debt? And can they consider the fact that there's been an improvement in my income?
No, it doesn't work that way. Oof. Unfortunately, you have to pay off liquidity as under debt review. So it's just a matter of a commitment from the consumer to say, you know what, let me make sure that I'm increasing the installment and push faster so that I'm under debt review. Because there's a court order. It's binding. As soon as ufuna deviate from that court order, you'd be in contempt of court. So make sure we are patala under debt review. We are before you even consider taking up more credit. It's just a matter of discipline and making sure you has pushy qualities out as soon as possible, and then you're able to go back to making more credit.
What if then I get a financial windfall of some sort? Maybe in Lotto, maybe in Hashi, or maybe in Imali is stokfelin. Then yes. Can I pay off the debt review? Yes. And then in case you have followed up?
Yes, as soon as everything has been paid up, Snama paid up later, we are Puma immediately out of debt review. So,
Mesonoge, what would you advise my consumers? Should they go for a consolidation loan? Should they go for debt review?
Okay. A consolidation loan works only if your credit score is positive.
Okay.
Now, and I'm a debt counselor or offer a consolidation loan. So my advice would be to a client, if you want a debt counselor a technique consolidation loan, you must run. Bazokufaka ku debt review. But it's disguised as debt consolidation. But also another point important ukuthi debt counseling, I think abanye abantu bayibiza as debt rehabilitation.
Right.
So kumele we understand in that context ukuthi was overstretchile for maybe some circumstance, abanye abantu ama circumstances in that have happened, khona manje kunyuka ama interest rates. People have lost jobs as a result of COVID. Abanye bathathe ama additional responsibilities because they've lost their loved ones. The devastation ehambelana ne COVID nje, just alone, has put ama consumers in a distressed position. So as a consumer, maso stage, understand ukuthi ulapho, uyazilungisa, uyazirehabilitator, in other words, ulungisa isimo sakho mayelana noku manager is mali.
Yeah.
Like kune instance la any client indicate ukuthi beyibhadala about 7,000 on a home loan, but with the rise in interest rates they are now paying almost 9,300. Now that's a circumstance enzima kakhulu to manage, and especially if mhlawumbe uthola ukuthi your partner akasasebenzi kune income A1 endlini. So realistically that requires you to see a debt counselor.
Right, asishiye lapho ke. Let's take our next caller. Sina Thabo lapha ke Wheatbank. Sakumule ehlelweni sawubona. Thabo Wheatbank, sakumule sawubona. All right, we seem to have lost Thabo. We'll try to re-establish connection with him after the break. Kepha konyalo asasithathwe carefully sigcina ngci. Do join us after this. Welcome to our very final segment. Earlier, we tried to establish connection at Thabo Ulapha Wheatbank, but due to technicalities, we couldn't get him on air. But kumbuto wa Thabo ladies, utsige begane paid up letter. But since ana paid up letter agasakhone uphuma ku debt review, how is that possible?
That's not possible. It's just a matter of he can lodge a complaint with the NCR so that we can get in touch with the debt counselor and find out ukuthi inkinga ikuphi. But among ama paid up letters, you shouldn't be having a problem to exit from debt review.
Okay, that is a giant red flag there, Masona.
Yeah, it could also be that communication na yene debt counselor ayiko. Some debt counselors have not re-registered, and in instances like that either more communicator ne NCR or communicator nenye debt counselor foot, the debt counselor can request a transfer from the other debt counselor and lodge that request on the NCR system. So makwenzekile kanjalo and mangabe aguna response from the other debt counselor, then a chance is that the system here NCR will automatically transfer that client to the new debt counselor, and the new debt counselor will obviously look at the paid up letters, if the client did have a proposal or it client in a credit report, because it's important that the client must have the credit report ngoba izobonisa ukuthi which accounts are reflecting on the credit report, and whether ama paid up letters are khona for wonke, and the client can get a clearance certificate and be assisted.
Great stuff. Now, Mmadikwa, nangabe ke kunemthengi noma ke i-consumer lo complaina ngekuthi he was tricked into a debt review by a legit and a registered debt counselor, registered by NCR. What do you do? Does the NCR deregister this debt counselor, or does the NCR help the consumer out of a debt review?
One, we would obviously, when you lodge the complaint, investigate ukuthi kwenzakaleni ukuze uzithole in the position where you are under debt review and you didn't agree to it. And based on that, we would decide what would work best. If necessary, and we see ukuthi from the debt counselor, it's sinama complaints amaningi that have the same nature, then we would obviously do an investigation and refer Leo Meta to a tribunal to actually deregister the debt counselor or issue a fine against the debt counselor. But we'll always make sure ukuthi a consumer is assisted ukuthi aphume under debt review, because we don't want consumers to be stuck. You know,
yes.
we want consumers to participate in the credit market. So as much as possible, sizomnceda while we carry on with the investigations or referring the debt counselor to a tribunal for deregistration or the fine.
All right, Masono, we're pressed for time. We're really out of time. But just briefly, what are some of the do's and the don'ts that consumers should, take cognizance of?
Okay. Mawengena ku debt review. In the first place, yazi ukuthi the person that you are dealing with is registered.
Yes.
A NCR website. When you look at do they have a website? Is it legit? But into important kakhulu engicabanga ukuthi iyasiza also ama referrals.
Okay.
When you have people who have been under debt review and abathole usizo successfully, that then should say, okay, lo muntu lo uthole usizo la, and they can go to that particular debt counselor. And then Masaugu under debt review commit to the process,
okay,
from the beginning right up to the end. Patali ikweleti zakho njengokuthi ufanele wenze.
Unfortunately, we're out of time. But ladies, lovely chatting to you. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Great stuff. Mbukeli kwanyalo sesifike emaphathelweni ihlelo lethu namhla ngitheke ngibonge ukuthi ivakashi tethu ngesikhathi labasiphe sona namhla ngithazabonga kanye nani babukele ngeba nathi kuze kube manje asihlangane futhi ngesikhathi sesitako lapho ke ku SABC 1 Mzansi for sure na ku SABC Plus lapho ke sitapha ke sinilethela ke lenye indzaba letawusinza wena namalungelo akho njengemthengi. From Miss Mphiwe Ngongane and the rest of the team, sizenihlale kahle and do have a great week ahead. Cheers.